Hi, good morning or good afternoon or whenever it is that you are practicing. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, and yeah, if you're new here, then it's so nice to have you. I am a yoga teacher here in Luxembourg, and today I'm going to guide you through quite a mellow but super fun and creative flow. So nothing too fast-paced, focusing more on stretching. You might need a block nearby, maybe 2 blocks. One might be just fine, but the more props, the better, and then you don't have to use all of them. All right, so with that being said, let's get started. And we're going to start in child's pose today. Oh, and before we do, if you don't mind, it really helps me if you could subscribe and like this video. Of course, if you enjoy it. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments afterwards. I always love hearing back from you. All right, let's get started in child's pose. So you can bring your knees wide apart, big toes together, and then just resting your hips back onto your heels. And then you can rest your forehead down on the mat. And let's go ahead and immediately start engaging deep breaths in and out through the nose. And when you breathe deeply, try to not only breathe into your chest, try to draw the breath all the way down into your lower belly. And so we're just taking a few moments here to ground ourselves before we start to move, to arrive into the present moment, consciously letting go of anything that happened today, and just dedicating this practice to being present with ourselves, to being connected to our bodies and self-aware, and being patient with ourselves, giving ourselves the grace and the love that we deserve. And 2 more breaths here. Now as you breathe in, really stretch through the fingertips, reach towards the top of the mat. And then as you breathe out, let's walk the hands over to the right of the mat. So the hips keep pulling back towards the heels, and we're stretching mainly the left side of the body. And on your next inhale, you can walk your hands back through center. And then both hands walk over to the left. On your next inhale, let's walk the hands back through center. And now we're going to slide the left arm underneath the right shoulder, threading the needle. You can come onto the left shoulder and left side of the head. 3 deep breaths here. Each inhale, feeling the pressure, especially in the right side, in the left side of your chest. Maybe even the left shoulder, left bicep. On your next inhale, let's come back to child's pose. And then the right arm slides underneath your left shoulder. 3 deep breaths here. And let's slowly come back to child's pose, and then you can make your way onto all 4s, stacking your shoulders over your wrists and your hips over your knees. Knees are about hip width distance apart, and wrists are shoulder width distance apart. And then go ahead and start to move in any direction that feels good. Not thinking about it too much, just moving intuitively. Maybe you circle the spine or move in figure 8s. Maybe cat and cow, rounding and extending the spine. Whatever feels good. Try to get movement in the cervical spine, so the neck. Movement in the wrists, the shoulders, the hips. let's slowly make our way back to a neutral spine. Now let's extend the right leg back behind you. So toes are tucked, and then we're just going to start to rock back and forth. Giving the right calf a little bit of a stretch, the right ankle, Achilles tendon, even the toes. And try to keep the rest of your spine straight, so no dropping the belly or excessively rounding. And now let's pause, shoulders over wrists. Right foot goes over to the left side of your mat, keeping your toes tucked. And then let's push into the right hand, look over your left shoulder. 2 more breaths here. So here you should feel the stretch most likely over the right hip or in the right side of your body. And now keeping the right leg as it is, just look forward. Let's bend the right knee, cross it behind the left. And then imagine you're going to child's pose. So pressing the hips back towards your heels, bringing the forehead closer down towards the mat. The left knee will automatically lift off the mat, and the forehead does not have to touch the floor. So you should feel length through the spine and quite a stretch or an opening in your outer hips. 2 more breaths here. Keep pulling the hips back, reaching fingertips forward as you would in child's pose. And then from here, let's walk the hands all the way back to the knees, lifting the chest, and then sitting down in between your heels for shoelace. Now you can lift the hips to readjust, maybe sliding the left knee a little further over the right, and then sit back down comfortably. Make sure both of your sit bones are grounded. So if you find that sitting on a block is helpful, you can always do that. We're on the outer blades of the feet. Let's reach the arms above the head, breathing in. The right elbow crosses over the left elbow for eagle arms, maybe clasping the hands. From here, let's lift the elbows away from the chest. Take 5 breaths. Focus on straightening your spine and then sending the breath in between the shoulder blades, so the upper back, trying to expand that whole area. With each exhale, think of relaxing your hips, relaxing your legs. One more breath here. On your next exhale, you can bring your elbows onto your knees, resting your forehead into your elbow creases, and hold here. If you find that you have a lot of tension in your legs, and this is quite a difficult position to hold, and you feel like it would be more comfortable to undo the bind of the arms, you can do that. So whatever you prefer. Just trying to relax into the hips, finding a little bit more space. Maybe the forehead rests on the knees if you don't have the bind of the arms anymore. So make sure wherever you are that your sit bones are still in contact with the mat. Let's take 2 more breaths here. On your next inhale, let's straighten the spine. Now the hands will press into the mat. Left hand is diagonally in front of you. Right hand is diagonally behind you. Let's lift the hips. The legs are still crossed. And then pivot 180 degrees to the right so that you're facing the back of your mat. Feet are quite wide apart, maybe even wider than the mat. And we're just going to grab opposite hand to opposite elbow and then sway the upper body side to side between the legs. And making sure your head hangs heavy here, shoulders are relaxed. And now releasing the hands down on the mat. Let's take a deep breath in, halfway lift. Bring your feet back onto the mat, so heel toe your feet onto the mat. And we're going to step the right foot to the very back of the mat. So left foot is on the outside of your left hand. Left leg is now bent, right leg is straight. And then you can start to rock back and forth, keeping your fingertips on the floor. If it feels good to completely straighten your left leg, be my guest. And making sure whatever movements you do that you are mindful of them, that you feel supported, so in control, you're never pulling something too hard, you're always there using strength, so you could always stay there comfortably, breathing comfortably. And now the next time your left knee is bent, let's pause here. Walk your hands to the right, so off the mat, to the right. We're going to walk the hands all the way to the other side of the mat, bending the right knee, left leg is now straight, side lunge skandasana. Your right foot can either be flat on the mat, if you manage to keep your right hip open, or you can keep your right heel lifted. Also, you need to keep your spine straight, so if by bringing the heel down you're rounding, maybe you want to keep it lifted, and you can always bring your right heel onto a block. Once you found your position and you're comfortable, squeeze the muscles through the left leg, squeeze both glutes to help open up the hips more. And then right arm can reach underneath the right knee, left arm reaches up to the sky, opening up the heart. Either stay here or let's wrap around the right leg. Keep flexing the left toes, keep opening up the chest, trying to expand the space between the collarbones. And on your next inhale, let's open up the arms again. Exhale, left hand comes back down on the mat. We're pivoting to a lunge, facing the top of the mat again. So your right knee is bent, right leg is in front of you, left leg is behind you. From here, let's heel toe the right foot over to the left wrist, and then drop your right knee. Slide your left leg back for pigeon pose. Once again, you can come onto a block if the hips are really far above the ground. Keeping your left leg in one line with your left hip, right knee in one line with your right hip. The right foot can be closer to the body or further away, depending on how flexible the hips are. Mine aren't very flexible. All right, let's take a deep breath in, lengthening the spine, engaging your back muscles. Exhale, let's drop the forehead down to the mat 5 times. Inhale to lift. Exhale for 4. Inhale to lift, making sure you're not pushing too much with the hands for 3. 2. And then 1. Let's come all the way down. Maybe you use your hands as a pillow. Maybe the arms extend out in front of you, forehead on the mat. Try to keep your hips leveled. Breathe deeply, sending the breath into the lower belly. And with each exhale, relaxing the hips a little bit more. Let's take 3 more breaths here. On your next inhale, let's walk the hands underneath the shoulders. Now we're going to make sure that your left foot is very far back, so you can almost pull the mat towards you with the top of your left foot, if that makes sense. Trying to get it as far back as possible. Once it's the furthest you can, let's bend that left knee. Maybe the left hand reaches back and catches the top of the left foot. Make sure that here you're not just pulling on the foot, but it's engaged, so the glute is engaged, the hamstring's engaged as well. If you cramp, you can always come out and then back in. It happens very regularly, so don't worry about that. Take some time to get used to. All right, and then from here, if it feels comfortable, you can pull that left foot a little bit closer towards you. And engaging the back body, making sure you're not just collapsing into your lower back. Let's take 3 more breaths here.
Slowly and without slingshotting your left foot, let's release it. Tuck the left toes, let's plant the hands. Three-legged dog, the right leg reaches up high. Exhale, let's bend the right knee, open up the hip, and you can go ahead and circle your right knee in one direction and in the other. On your next inhale, three-legged dog, straighten your right leg. Now let's cross the right foot behind the left foot. So the feet are hip-width distance apart. Right leg is crossed behind the left. Let's start to bend the knees. Lift your right hand off the mat. Pivot your feet so they're pointing towards the back of the mat. Hips almost touch the heels. From here, let's press into the heels, lift the hips. You can lift them as much as a reverse tabletop or go further into the back bend if you feel ready and if that feels good. Just make sure your legs are strong and you're actively reaching through the right fingertips. One more breath here. On your next exhale, let's re-bend the knees. Hips almost touch the heels. Look towards your left hand. Right hand comes down on the mat. Three-legged dog, right leg rises. Exhale, let's step the right foot between the hands and drop the left knee. Anjaneyasana, reaching the arms up for 3. Squeezing the glutes, pulling the hips down and forward. Again, actively lifting out of the lower back, not collapsing into the back bend. And now from here, and I encourage you to maybe take your block with you. We're going to come all the way back, sitting on the mat. So you might already want to sit on a block here. We're going to roll out the left calf. Left heel is beside your left hip, so half hero's pose. And then the right leg is in front of you. If you find that you're really leaning over to the right, you can sit on the block already. Let's flex the toes, take a deep breath in. On your exhale, let's fold over the right leg. Now, if you're folding and one hip or one sit bone is lifting off the mat a lot, that might be a sign that you need to sit on the block. On your next inhale, let's slowly straighten the spine. Now, here is where I definitely need the block. I'm going to keep the block to my right. Let's bend the right knee, and then we're going to come into a half lotus with the right foot. So the left leg stays as it is. Let's bring the right heel into the left hip crease. Now, a lot of you probably have very open hips and you don't have an issue here with the right knee. If your knee touches the floor, you do not need the block. If your knee is very high, even higher than the left knee, you need the block. So I definitely need the block. I'm just going to place it over my right knee for a little bit of support. So you can kind of choose the level that you want. Okay, that feels good. All right, now from here, let's straighten the spine. And then the left hand can hold the right knee. We're twisting to the right. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Each inhale growing taller through the crown of the head. Each exhale squeezing navel in, twisting a little deeper. And on your next inhale, unwind. Little counter bow to the left, even if it's a little awkward. Then let's come back through center. I'm going to remove the block. Now, you can do this without changing the bind of the right leg. If it's too much, you can, of course, undo the right leg and just step your right foot in front of your left knee. We're coming into downward facing dog. So if you want to come from here, fingertips press into the mat. Let's lift the hips, and then the hands come in front of you. Maybe the right foot stays where it is. Let's tuck the left toes, lift the left knee, come into your downward facing dog with the half lotus. And if you don't have the half lotus, that is fine. We're going to meet in downward facing dog anyways. Let's take 3 breaths here. Pressing your right knee back, opening up the right hip a little bit more, but being super careful. Also being careful with the left knee, making sure you have a micro bend there. All right, and then you can slowly release the right foot, come into downward facing dog. Just 3 to 5 breaths here, noticing any difference between your legs. Noticing how you feel in this downward facing dog. Now on your next exhale, let's drop both knees down on the mat, tabletop. We're going to take a few rounds of cat and cow before we repeat everything on the left side. So inhale to drop the belly and pull the chest through. Exhaling 1 vertebra at a time to round the spine. And inhale to open. Exhaling to round. 3 more at your own rhythm of breath. And on your next inhale, let's come back to a neutral spine. From here, we're extending that left leg long, keeping the spine neutral, tucking the left toes. You can start to rock back and forth. And just noticing the muscles in the left leg. Maybe you can feel the stretch along the left calf, maybe even the hamstring, although a little bit more unlikely. Noticing what you feel in the ankle, the foot. I've recently been listening to a neuroscience podcast, and I really loved the way that he described our attention. Our attention is like a spotlight. So wherever you focus on in the body, you can focus the spotlight of attention. Because these sensations in the body are always happening. It's just we don't really notice them unless we focus on them. All right, enough chit chat. Let's bring the left foot over to the right of the mat, keeping the toes tucked. Pressing into the left hand, you can look over your right shoulder. And deep breaths here. Sending the breath into the left side of the body. Throughout all these movements and throughout all the shapes that we're holding, try to maintain a lot of attachment to your breath. So just maintaining your focus on your breath, breathing nice and deep. Keeping your left leg where it is, let's look forward. Cross your left knee behind the right. Keep your feet quite wide apart. Imagine you're going into child's pose, sending the hips back, reaching the fingertips forward, and dropping the forehead towards the mat. And now we're going to keep the legs as they are. Walk your hands all the way back to your knees, lifting the chest and finding a seat between your heels, taking the time to readjust. Coming into shoelace. On your inhale, reaching the arms above your head. Exhale, the left elbow crosses over the right. Maybe the hands clasp eagle arms, lifting the elbows away from your chest and upwards. 3 deep breaths here. And now from here, you can either keep the bind and fold forward, resting your forehead into your elbow creases. If this is really uncomfortable for you or you feel like you're not getting the most out of the stretch, you can undo the bind of the arms, bringing the forehead down towards the right knee. 5 breaths here. On your next inhale, let's straighten the spine. Right hand is diagonally in front of you, left hand diagonally behind you. Press into the hands and feet, lift the hips, pivot 180 degrees to the left. Prasarita facing the back of your mat. Let's bring the hands onto the ankles. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, let's imagine you're pulling socks up your legs, fold forward. Crown of the head reaches down towards the mat, elbows point up towards the sky, and try to bring your shoulders away from your ears. Keep hollowing the lower belly, remembering that the core is always an essential part of any forward fold, almost any shape in yoga, really. And now let's release. Take a deep breath in, halfway lift. Just bring your feet back onto the mat. So maybe it's just a few centimeters, maybe it's a lot. And now we're going to step the left foot to the very back of the mat. Right leg is bent, stay onto your fingertips, and then you can start to move back and forth. Maybe completely straightening the right leg, maybe not, whatever feels good. Now the next time that your right knee is bent, let's pause here. Walk your hands over to the left. Okay, the right leg will start to straighten. You can flex your right toes, turn your left toes out slightly, bend your left knee. Skandasana, side lunge on the left leg. So the left leg is bent, right leg is straight. Take your time to readjust. Make sure the chest is open, spine is nice and straight. And then the left arm can maybe reach underneath the left knee. Right arm reaches up to the sky. You can stay here, or you can bind around your left leg. And as you breathe in, let's open up the arms. Exhale, the right hand comes down. Let's pivot into a lunge. We're facing the top of the mat. Again, left leg is bent, right leg is straight. Let's heel toe the left foot over to the right wrist. Drop your left knee. Slide the right leg back as far as you can. Inhale, let's lift the chest. Exhale, the forehead taps the floor, very controlled for 5. Inhale with the strength of your back rising. 4. 3. 2. And 1. Come all the way down. Hands can be used as a pillow, or you can extend your arms out in front of you, whatever feels good. Let's keep the hips leveled. Breathe deeply into the lower belly. And just using this time to explore the shape. Noticing how the pattern of your breath affects the shape and affects the sensations in the body. And bringing the spotlight of your attention into your left hip, maybe the left knee, wherever the sensation is the strongest. Last 3 breaths here. Now let's slowly walk the hands underneath the shoulders, lifting the chest. We're going to first make sure your right knee is as far towards the back of the mat as you can, and then bend your right knee. Right hand maybe reaches back and grabs the right foot. And then making sure that you're not just pulling, but you're also activating the muscles in the back of the right leg. you can slowly start to bring that right foot closer to your body without pulling excessively, just finding a nice stretch. On your next exhale, let's slowly release without slingshotting the right leg. Tuck your right toes, plant your hands. Inhale, three-legged dog, left leg reaches up high. Noticing how that feels, it should feel good. Exhale, let's bend the left knee, open up the hip, and then maybe circle your left knee in one direction and in the other. Now on your inhale, let's straighten the left leg. Keeping your left leg straight, let's cross that left foot behind the right. Feet are about hip-width distance apart. Start to bend your knees and pivot your feet so they point towards the back of the mat. Hips to heels, left arm is in the air. Inhale, let's press into the heels and open up the heart. You can go as deep or as shallow into the back bend as feels good. On your next exhale, let's re-bend the knees, bring your hips to your heels, look towards the top of the mat, left hand comes down, left leg lifts up in the air, three-legged dog. Exhale, left foot steps between the hands, let's drop the right knee, Anjaneyasana. Inhale, squeezing the glutes, lowering the hips towards the left heel, but also lifting out of your lower back for 3. And now on your next exhale, you can untuck your right toes, come all the way back with the help of your hands. Let's sit on the mat. Right heel is beside your right glute. You can roll out your right calf muscle to have a little bit more space. The right knee does not have to touch the left knee. It can be 5-10 centimeters away from the left, whatever feels more comfortable with your hips. And you can always sit on the block or a pillow. Deep breath in here. Exhale, let's fold forward. And you can use your hands to stabilize yourself. And remembering that you want to keep both sit bones grounded. On your next inhale, let's slowly make our way back up. This is where I need the block. The block, I'm going to place it on my left. Let's bend the left knee, making sure you're still nice and comfortable here. Maybe your left heel comes into your right hip crease. This side is worse for me than my right, so I'm going to bring the block to a higher level. Just making sure that there's no sharp pains in your knee or in your hips. This should feel relatively comfortable. If this is too much, you can always undo the bind, straighten out your right leg, and then just do half lotus with the left, or even Janu Shashasana with your left foot against the inner right thigh instead of over the right thigh. So there's always options. I'm sorry I can't give every single variation because everything would take 5 times as long, but I hope that you can figure it out. All right. Now from here, we're going to twist to the left, taking a deep breath in to lengthen your spine. Right hand comes on your left knee, left hand comes behind you. Deep breaths. Each inhale thinking of lengthening and opening the chest. Each exhale squeezing navel in, twisting deeper. And just remembering here, your right hand is there to assist the twist, but it's not the driving force of the twist. The driving force of the twist is in the core. On your next inhale, let's unwind. Awkward little counter bow to the right. And then let's come back through center. Removing the block so it doesn't get in the way. Let's lift the hips off the floor with the help of the hands. and place the hands in front of you as if you're doing tabletop. Tuck your toes, lift the right knee, downward facing dog, maybe keeping the half lotus on the left side. I always keep a micro bend in my right knee just to protect it from overextending. On your next exhale, let's very slowly and mindfully release the left foot, come into downward facing dog. Our last downward facing dog, so just noticing how it feels. Noticing if there's any difference in the legs. Maybe shaking out the head or taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. When you're ready, let's slowly walk all the way up to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Bending your knees a lot, let's roll up high mountain. And let's come high up onto the toes, and then slow-mo, hips to heels for 5. Keeping the spine straight, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Once you're there, let's wrap the arms around the knees, opposite hand to opposite elbow. Try to come as high as possible onto your toes. Let's hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release your heels. Come to a seat, keeping the knees bent into the chest. Peace fingers wrap around the big toes. Let's lift the heels off the mat and hold for 5, 4. Try to keep your stomach glued to your thighs. 3. Keep pulling your shoulders back and down. 2. 1. Same thing. Maybe straighten your legs a little bit more for 5, 4, 3, 2. 1. Same thing with the upper body. See if you can open the legs for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's bring them back together. See if you can let go of the hands for 5. Keep growing tall. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Let's cross over the shins. Come into high plank. And then we're just going to take a floating dog. So making sure that you keep squeezing the glutes, drop the hips, open up the heart. And now let's lift the right toes, pivot into wild thing, being very careful with your spine. On your next exhale, let's come back to floating dog. So very slowly dropping the hips. Now let's bend the left knee. Slowly pivot into wild thing on the right hand. And slowly let's come into a high plank. Exhale, drop the knees, cross the shins, and now we're gonna come all the way down to the back. Once your head touches the floor, you can come into Halasana, Plow pose. Feet come behind the head. At 1 vertebra at a time, using the strength of your core. Let's bring the hips back down, bend the knees into your chest. Let's finish off with a twist, taking any leg variation that you want. Knees will go over to the right. So maybe the left knee crosses over the right, or you can extend your left leg for a T-band stretch, whatever you prefer. On your next inhale, let's come back through center. And then let's take a twist to the left. Both knees go over to the left, right arm extends out to the right. On your next inhale, let's come back through center, hugging your knees into your chest. Take a deep breath in. Let's lift the forehead up to the knees. Hold the breath and squeeze every single muscle in your body for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. Come into Savasana, extending the legs out in front of you, the arms alongside your body. Taking your time to readjust the shoulders, the hips, lengthening the back of the neck. And once you're comfortable, let's take a deep breath in together, in through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. Now I know it is tempting to skip Shavasana, and once in a while, if you do, it is okay. Sometimes life gets the better of us and we have things to do, or the mind is simply way too agitated to simply lay here quietly, and that's okay. But just know that it's just a few minutes. It's probably the shortest part of the practice, but arguably the most important one. It's really calming down the body, working with the breath. And only by actually calming the body can we calm the mind. Trying to use the mind to calm the mind is not always the most effective idea. So if we can calm down the body and in turn calm down the mind, then it's just a much nicer, happier place for us to be, especially when our thoughts are racing in a million directions. So just try to stay here. Try to not focus on your mind, but rather on the breath and letting go of tension in the body. Visualizing yourself sinking into the mat. And then you'll notice that the more the body becomes soft, the more the mind calms down, and vice versa. In your own time, you can start deepening your breath and re-inviting movement into your fingertips and toes. Taking your time to stretch in any direction that feels good. And then in your own way, and taking whatever path feels good, we're going to slowly make our way up to a comfortable seat. Resting your hands on your knees and just checking in with how you're feeling, both in your body and mind. I I invite you to reach the arms above the head, breathing in. Exhale, keeping the length in your spine, bringing the hands to the heart space. Let's go ahead and rub the hands together. And then you can place your hands over your eyes. Good. Let's slowly blink the eyes open, removing the hands away from the face. And namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today for today's practice. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you feel renewed, refreshed. If you liked it, please let me know in the comments. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful day ahead. And before you go, 1 second, meet my puppies. This is Gulliver. Gulliver, 7-month-old little Basenji, just woke up from a nap. And Zaina, come here. And Zaina's just yawning in the background and not in the mood. But you've definitely seen her walk past. So if you ever hear them in the background of my videos, I'm very sorry. But yeah, there they are. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much once again. Bye.